opposition, and I'm, at this point, disappointed that I have to go with opposition. But I have to go with opposition, Mr. Speaker, because as I spoke earlier about the TAT. So now, as I said earlier, we had a funding mechanism. People have been paying it since 2012. 0.5% of the GET. To come back in here and then to go out to the neighbor islands and ask them to pay for rail is going to be very, very, very difficult for anybody from the neighbor islands to explain. So that is a very, very difficult choice that we have to make. And so for me, I have to fight and listen to my constituents, because if I don't, I'm not going to be around here to represent them. And if you look at the social media that's coming from Kauai and from Maui and from Hawaii Island, if you look at the newspaper articles from Hawaii Island and Maui and Kauai, they don't understand this, and it's difficult to explain this to them. As I mentioned earlier, when the Senate adjourned sine die, they had a vehicle in place that extended the GET. We dropped the floor amendment here, and I want to thank the representative from Manoa and the representative from Wahiawa for introducing that. But it didn't pass, and that was seamless, in my opinion, Mr. Speaker. But to have the collateral damage that we are in now, it's hard. It's hard for everyone. And I know as I'm standing here speaking, there's probably people from Oahu saying, we support you guys on all these things. When Hurricane Iniki hit Kauai, and I said earlier, thank you, I appreciate that. But to go back and explain that to the neighbor islands is just hard. People on the neighbor islands think that Honolulu takes too much of the pot. I don't always believe that's true, because I know a lot of people in here that support the neighbor islands, but it's hard to go back there and explain that to them. It's just difficult. So to the trades, I would say to you, I have been a strong supporter of this project. But also, I grew up in the hotel industry. I started as a busboy. I was a general manager in the hotel industry. Now, a lot of my supporters are from the hotel industry. A lot of the hotels on Kauai are in my district. So now to go back to them and say, I'd rather take that choice than another choice, I can't do that, Mr. Speaker. So, that's a difficult situation that we are in. If you look at this bill, there's a lot of...
Representative, excuse me. Please address the chair. Thank you.
I gotta look at my notes, though. So, okay, I'll do this, but I gotta read my notes. Sorry. There are a lot of language in this bill. I'm addressing you, Speaker. There's a lot of language in this bill that is micromanaging the project. So, maybe this should be a state project. Maybe, I'm sure Kirk Caldwell was probably sitting up there, the mayor of Honolulu is sitting up there going, yeah, you guys want to do it, go do it. But when we do things like that in the language of this bill, it only makes it harder. And I'm not sure the Federal Transportation Agency is going to look at what we're doing and say, oh, this is a great bill. I'm not sure. And I'm not in the federal delegation. They know better than I, but it's going to be a difficult choice for them to have to make. And we don't want to have to eat that cost as well. This is, for me, when it comes to the hotels and the trades, it's like I have 2 kids. It's like choosing one over the other, and I don't want to make that choice. I cannot make that choice. I want to stand here and I want to speak up for the constituents of mine in District 15. I feel terrible for the Senate President because he's from Kauai, and the emails and the Facebook posts that I get, is putting a cloud on him. But I'll tell you what, I mentioned it earlier. The Senate had a position on sine die. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to end with that. It's almost 5 minutes, but I would like to ask that the words of the representative from Wahiawa be inserted into the journal as if they were my own, except for the part that he's voting up on this bill. And I'd like to ask for permission to insert comments into the journal.
So ordered.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, Representative Morikawa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We all live in it. Even though we are separated by ocean waters, we are the same state. We are all neighboring islands, not outer islands. When an island needs help, we step up. That is our job. That is what we are elected to do. Help all of Hawaii. Many of us have been to cities or countries where a rail system of some kind exists, and we know why people are so dependent on them. Here in Honolulu, it may not seem that a rail system will help, but when parking and congestion become major issues, people will be forced to use public transportation. Remember when gas prices were so high that a gallon of gas was almost $5? A lot of people jumped on the bus. Some of you remember when there was a shortage of gas and we had to rotate days to fill our tanks. Even now with electric vehicles, how long can you sit in traffic? I remember when there was a critical accident on the freeway at the H1 H2 merge. The whole island was gridlocked. Many people missed their flights, and many had to drive around the island to get back to Honolulu. Sure, neighbor island residents and many Oahu residents are critical about Honolulu's rail, but this is the time that everyone in the state of Hawaii needs to step up and help. It troubles me to hear neighbor island county leaders wanting to kill this bill, not considering the ramifications it will have on our Oahu neighbors and putting undue pressure on their legislators. It troubles me to think that they want only Oahu surcharge to be used for many, many more years in the future. And yet, they need us to help fund many county projects. Now, who helps neighbor island projects? I think a lot of it is Oahu's population. Many neighbor island residents travel to Oahu for medical services, for family caregiving, for vacations, and to visit family and friends. They are already helping to pay for rail. So when I hear someone say they should not pay for something that doesn't benefit their island, I shake my head and know that in many ways, Oahu residents help neighbor islanders. Remember too, our kupuna. If we are in the beginning of the silver tsunami, then we need to think about how many elderly people will not be able to drive, who will become dependent on alternate modes of transportation. I don't know what the future will be, but I can dream. I can imagine many residents driving to a rail station, then hopping on to continue their commute to town. I can also see the expansion of rail to the university, to Hawaii Kai, and perhaps around the island. Heck, it might even help with the congestion on the North Shore and allow for a breathtaking view of this beautiful island. Finally, I can imagine an elderly community develop close to a rail station where they, our kupuna, can safely commute around Oahu. What we have in front of us is a good compromise. It is a sacrifice by everyone to help our largest populated island complete a transportation mode. Our visitors will contribute and need to contribute because all over the state, our infrastructure is being worn down. Everywhere in the state, there is a need to fund infrastructure projects. This issue has divided many of us, and I agree, it has become a poorly run project. So now we can make sure that this project is audited and safeguards are in place to assure accountability. SB4 will accomplish that. We need to come together on this. We as leaders need to stand up for everyone in this great state. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Suki. Representative Suki.
Tonight, some Kauai residents are not happy that TAT taxes paid by visitors on our island will be used for the needs of another island. Some residents believe that all taxes paid on Kauai should stay on Kauai. The representative from Waimea, Kauai, Senate President, and I have made strong arguments that this is a dangerous position to take, since Kauai receives a disproportionate higher share of not only the TAT county allocation, but other taxes and fees as well. The state of Hawaii subsidizes Kauai's highways, our harbors, Kauai Veterans Memorial and Mahelona Hospitals, Kauai Community College, and the list goes on. With only 72,000 residents, We rely on the rest of the state, primarily urban Honolulu, to provide employment, services, and capital improvement projects on our island. As a freshman legislator, I'm learning about how the state has to balance basic services such as public education, human services, and healthcare to every resident in the state while addressing special needs as they arise. When Hurricane Iniki struck Hawaii, a disproportionate share of state resources were funneled to our island to deal with the disaster and the recovery. When Hawaii Island experienced threatening invasive species and the onslaught of natural disasters, the state came through with funding. And when Maui privatized their healthcare system recently, significant resources, $63 million, were allocated to make the conversion work. The use of the TAT, paid for by our visitors, helps to complete the rail system to Ala Moana and saves the state of Hawaii $1 billion in financing fees over time. I'm also supporting this bill because it restores $10 million of the TAT and gives neighbor island counties the authority once again to enact the 0.5% GET surcharge for transportation projects on their islands. Mr. Speaker, 2 nights ago at the joint SB4 public hearing, I was sad to see the divisiveness and the tension between our neighbor island counties and this body. As a former county council member and managing director, I understand the frustration of the counties. As a state representative and member of the Finance Committee, I see the broad and deep financial needs throughout our state. But there is hope. Yesterday, our House Tourism Chair expressed his desire to see the TAT help counties address the impacts of visitors. I strongly support this position. On Kauai, 1 out of every 4 or 5 persons on any given day is a visitor. They are impacting our roads, our parks, and our communities. And in any tropical destination, there's going to be an airport, there's going to be hotels, a McDonald's, a Pizza Hut, a Taco Bell. But what we have in Hawaii is we have our natural resources. We have our cultural resources, and we have our beach parks. This is what makes us so special, in addition to the Aloha spirit. So I really believe that we need to support and protect our natural resources. We need to support community groups who are stewarding our cultural resources. We need to upgrade our park amenities, add highway capacity, and where there is no room for additional highway capacity, we need to help our counties with our shuttles and buses, which is our form of rapid transit. Yes, we must focus on marketing Hawaii, but we must either reallocate or expand our resources to focus on our product. Our current path is not sustainable. I believe the counties can be our partners to help us improve our product, improve the quality of life for everyone, and make our visitor experience second to none. Finally, I'd like to express my thanks to all in both chambers who worked on this compromise measure. Mahalo.
Thank you. Members, any other discussion? Representative Kong,